It can feel foolish to pause, to marvel at the stars when the world is burning, writes Black Liturgy's author Cole Arthur Riley. There are so many massive problems in our world and in our lives. The news is filled with stories of cabinet nominees who will endanger our environment and our public health and our social safety net. News filled with violence and brutality across an ocean funded by our government. News filled with Supreme Court arguments as they are potentially poised to support the denial of health care to trans kids, our kids. Not to mention the shootings and the stabbings in our own neighborhoods, the health crises that we and our loved ones are facing, the 1,000 tiny ways that it feels hard to get through the month for so many of us, or through the day, or through the hour. It can feel foolish to pause, to marvel at the stars when the world is burning, or to find the world beautiful when you've known it to betray you, writes Riley. But wonder is a liberation practice, she says, a reminder that we contain more than tragedy. Beauty is our origin and our anchor. Beauty is not synonymous with escapism. It is a form of truth-telling. When the world is burning, when there is so much wrong, it can feel foolish to marvel at beauty, to give thanks for those kitchen table moments of life, to make small, good choices that feel like they make no difference at all in the big picture. These little gratitudes, these tiny choices can feel like small potatoes in the grander scheme of life and world events. Foolish, insignificant, unimportant. At least that's how I often feel when I'm feeling pessimistic and cynical, when that voice that lives in my head alongside all the other voices in my head and tells me that I am just foolish when I sit down to write a sermon called Small Potatoes. And I'll say that the original draft title for this service was Small Potatoes Are the Best Potatoes. But then I realized that thems might be fighting words amongst this congregation, given how strong many of us feel about potatoes. And member Mark Gignac, good to see you here today, Mark, made large, hearty baked potatoes for our community meal this past Wednesday. They were really good potatoes also. I know many of you prefer your potatoes mashed or French fried or cooked up into patatas bravas or a million other potato recipes for which small potatoes do not work, right? They are terrible for many potato recipes. So I will not tell you that literal small potatoes are the literal best potatoes. But today we are leaning into the metaphor that focusing on those small potatoes moments in life, those moments of wonder at beauty and gratitude and connection, that these can be a liberation practice, as Riley writes, that these small potatoes moments can be a reminder that we contain more than tragedy. The origin of the phrase or the idiom small potatoes, as I understand it, comes from the United States in the 19th century, when potatoes were central nourishment for many people, as they remain today, and when you were always looking just for the big potatoes, because they could feed more people and they take less time to clean and to prepare. Small potatoes at the time meant not just like slightly less good potatoes, but meant insignificant because of how people really needed the big potatoes to fill each other's bellies, and how little it would be worth it to dig up, scrub clean, and peel. Can you imagine peeling small potatoes for dinner? This phrase makes very little sense to us today, or at least people who are raised in these times, because if you go to any grocery store, you will find that the small potatoes, those bags of those little fingerling potatoes, cost like 4 times per pound more what the big potatoes cost. However, the revolution over the last century on how we value different sizes of potatoes is the metaphor that I want to explore today in worship. Because our culture has taught us to mostly value the big potatoes, right? The big potato moments in life and in history. those peak experiences of our lives, the landmark cases that are won for justice, the big successes and the biggest failures in our lives and in democracy. But the truer value in life and in justice, I think, lies in those thousands of small potato moments in life. The love and the joy that gives our life meaning, the character of our country, and the movements that give rise to real justice in our world. And so I want to share just the 3 gifts of small potatoes that I have learned. And I'll say I've learned these gifts, but I've also forgotten them and relearned them again and forgotten them again. These are not the kind of epiphany gifts that hit you once and stay with you forever, at least not for me. The first gift is the idea that small moments of attention and gratitude and appreciation can be like deposits in a bank, which then can help us sustain ourselves in hard times. My partner Kai and I were taught this by our couples therapist. Hi, big proponent of all kinds of therapy if you haven't tried it. Couples therapists are great, whether you're in a difficult moment or a good moment in a relationship. Our therapist told us that amping up the times where we voice our gratitude and appreciation for each other can help build a kind of cushion of goodwill in our relationship together, so that when conflict arises, as it obviously will with any couple, it isn't magnified quite as much by both partners feeling taken for granted. Does that resonate with any of you? I've preached before, some of you remember this story, about how I used to leave spoons all over the house. So maybe some of you might remember that. I would love to say I'm really good at it now. I am not really good at it now, but I'm better than I used to be. And it used to drive my partner Kai nuts. I would stir my coffee, bring my coffee up to my office, leave the spoon there. Bring the cup down, but leave the spoon there. So the spoons are all over the house. And Kai might think that he shouldn't need to thank me when I actually bring my spoons down and put them in the dishwasher. I should just do it. I should do it without needing thanks for it, right? It's a standard practice, putting one's spoons in the dishwasher. And to some degree, he would be right if he thought that. But when Kai notices and thanks me for putting my spoons in the dishwasher, I feel like the effort I am making to compromise in our relationship is seen. It makes me feel seen by him. It makes me want to keep working to make our relationship work. Those little small potato thanks for doing the thing that you should have already been doing, but you're not very good at doing. It's a small thing, but how many of us have had moments where someone has asked us to change a habit, and then when we make the change, they just find something else that they want us to change, right? And when that happens, it can make you feel like you just want to give up. You're like, well, I already changed, but then apparently I'm not good enough still. Like, why even try? It can make us want to give up on the hard work in relationship, and can sometimes lead us to giving up in relationships themselves. Small moments of sharing gratitude with one another, small moments of lifting gratitude just for those mundane gifts of our days, small moments of noticing beauty can fill our banks in all kinds of ways. Whether it's intentionally noticing and creating beauty as a practice, which some of us do to help us face traumatic experiences. Having a gratitude practice just for ourselves can help us fill up with energy to be able to face challenges in our lives. Because cynicism and despair are deeply draining, and it makes it very, very hard to go about your day if that's what you are filled with. These are small potatoes things, maybe. But small potatoes that when they add up become profoundly nourishing in relationships and in our own lives. So that's the first gift that I learn and relearn again and again about potatoes, small potatoes. The second gift of small potatoes moments is this. While we pay attention to lots of those big potato moments in our lives, those big moments in our lives often happen to us, whereas we get to choose the small potato moments. In other words, those newsworthy moments in our lives, the big breaks, the marriages, the having of children, these are often things that we work towards, sure. It's not that they are only random. But they do involve an enormous amount of chance, right? Think of how many incredible musicians and artists and actors and writers never get a big break. They might be world class, but that doesn't mean that their art will ever reach a wide audience. Think of how many of us who are inherently worthy and beautiful and miraculous people, but still don't find partnership that stays with us and nourishes us our whole life long. Think of how many people who never planned to become parents find parenthood unexpectedly, and how many who always thought they would become parents find that their life story doesn't include that. No matter how hard we try, we can't fall in love through force of will. No matter how worthy of success we are, opportunity and chance don't always unite in the right moment for us. And if we only value those big potato moments in our lives, we can wonder what is wrong with us if they don't show up. We can wonder whether something about us is broken, or something about us is simply less good than those for whom the big potatoes arrive. Small potatoes sometimes arise through chance, yeah, but mostly it's our choice whether we want to share little gratitudes with those around us. It's our choice whether we want to choose to focus on the ugliness and cynicism, or whether we want to choose to focus on beauty and hope. It's our choice whether we want to make eye contact with a stranger, or whether we want to risk sharing our deep truth with someone else, or give a piece of our time to making the world a better place. We choose our small potatoes, and we can choose good ones. That's the second gift. The third gift of the small potato moments is a gift that has been taught to me by the dying. Because in my work as a minister, I'm offered the incredible privilege of sitting with people at the end of their lives. And because I'm sitting with them usually as their minister, they'll often talk to me about how they view the arc of their living. And as I've reflected on those conversations that I've had with many people in this congregation who've passed on before us this week, conversations with people whose professional resumes are very impressive and those who've never held a stable job, people who had nourishing and long-lasting partnerships and those who never felt romantic love, people who created large families and those who found connection in other ways. These are the themes that I usually hear from people. Sometimes there is some regret. Almost always there's some sense of wishing that some circumstances of life would have turned out differently than they did. But the people who seem to have made peace with their approaching death, they have all shared with me that they did what they could to be a good person, even though they know that they fell short in a million ways, that they loved getting to experience life, and that they are grateful for the people that they have loved and the people who have loved them. Thus far, I've never on a deathbed heard someone describe the gifts of their life as their achievements. It's always the gifts of being present through their experience, of the work of trying to be good and knowing that you will fail, and most of all, gratitude for every single ounce of love given and received. For those of us who are able to reach the end of our lives with clarity and peace, and not all of us get that gift, the only story I've ever heard is about being present and trying to be a good person and love, love, love. Small potatoes, but together deeply, deeply nourishing. The best potatoes. Creating lots of small potato moments day by day can help us get through when hard times arise. Big potatoes show up in our lives sometimes, but the power lies in choosing to create a lot of good small potatoes. Those who come to death feeling that they have had a life well lived will always describe the nourishment of all of those small potato moments in their lives as the most important. When Nick and I were preparing for this service, I told her I was going to look up potato jokes. And I didn't find a lot of good ones. And I would not even say the one I'm about to tell is a good one, but I'm still going to tell one. What do you call someone who thinks a lot about potatoes and just sits there and thinks about potatoes, looks at potatoes? a meditator. Yeah, I love it. Whoever are the hissers in this congregation, I love it when you hiss at my bad dad jokes. So please feel free to hiss louder because it's hilarious to me. They are not meant to be good jokes, my friends. But my friends, thank you for being meditators with me today. My closest friend tells me that her grandmother, Helen, daughter of the Murphys and the Allens, raised Irish American in northern Illinois, used to call all of her 11 grandchildren every St. Patrick's Day. She would call them to primarily remind them that they were Irish and it was St. Patrick's Day. And she would also tell them stories about the days before Irish people were considered in the fold of whiteness in this country, helping them understand the history of what it means to be Irish. But she would always finish the conversation by saying that at dinner every day, everyone should say a prayer of gratitude for their food. And if there's potatoes available on your table for dinner, Grandmother Helen would remind her grandchildren to say an extra long prayer because we are extra grateful for potatoes when we are Irish. It can feel foolish to pause, to marvel at the stars when the world is burning, or to find the world beautiful when you've known it to betray you, Cole Arthur Riley reminds us. But wonder is a liberation practice. Gratitude is a liberation practice. It's a reminder that we contain more than tragedy. Beauty is our origin and our anchor. Beauty is not synonymous with escapism. It's a form of truth-telling. May we go forth and tell the truth about all of our small potatoes. Amen, and blessed be.
Hi, I'm Reverend Abby Tennis, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Reverend Alexandre da Silva Soto, and my pronouns are they, them, and theirs.
And we are the ministers of the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia, where it is our mission to awaken love and justice in our lives and in the world. We're so glad you watched this video, and we hope that its message connects with your soul.
We also want to invite you to join us for Zoom services Sunday morning at 11 a.m. or come in person at 2125 Chestnut Street, Center City, Philadelphia.
Whether you join in person or online, in these services you'll hear messages like you just heard. You'll get a chance to sing together, pray together, and even greet one another in coffee hour afterwards, whether you're brand new or a longtime member.
You can always find a Zoom link to our services and more about what to expect on Sunday mornings on our website, philauu.org, philauu.org. The link is below.
If you are connecting with this message and feel moved to give to the mission of this congregation, we invite you to click on the link below again and follow the prompts to give, or send a text message to 215-709-5095, and again, follow the prompts.
If someone in your life needs to hear these words today, please share this video. And again, thank you so much for watching.
We hope to see you soon.
See you soon.